The most documented UFO sighting of all time occurred in December 1980 in Rendlesham Forest, next to Bentwaters Air Force Base in Suffolk, England. Witnesses included Base Commander Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, U.S. Serviceman John Burroughs, and Sergeant Jim Peniston, who took copious notes and recently completed a 700-page book, The Rendlesham Enigma.
Since 1984, I've been trying to understand what happened at our Bentwaters Woodbridge in England when a group of various men encountered various kinds of lights in Rendlesham Forest. And one of them, a man named Jim Peniston, who was a staff sergeant back on the night of December 26th with John Burroughs, they encountered a huge blast of white light in the forest as they were chasing lights that were moving through the trees. And then Jim said that out of that light, there just seemed to pop in a black, glassy triangle that had symbols on it. And when he touched the symbols with his fingers, he saw zeros and ones start pouring into his mind. Over the 30-some years after that, he had never told anyone about zeros and ones and binary code. But when he finally did start talking about the binary code, and we started translating it somewhere around 2010 for the first time in the Ancient Aliens production we were doing, it was a series of words about essentially humanity must advance for survival. That's what it seemed to boil down to. The period of the event was in December of 1980. We didn't learn about the binary code until late 2010. In the summer of 2015, then 5 years later, I get a notice that an extraordinary case has emerged out of the state of Georgia. And when I got the email saying that, see if you can get in touch with this Army guy, it had a drawing, a sketch of a huge sort of oval football-shaped craft, and it was identified as having been drawn by a military guy. And finally, when I did get to talk with him, he said, I can't let you use my real name. My family could be in jeopardy. He said, I'm still active Army, and the only way that I can talk to you is if you can alter my voice. And he said, you have to show me. And he said, we have to do a trial audio, and then you alter it, and then I'll tell you if I think it works, because I'll lose my job. Well, we did. I got it altered. Then we did a long interview that started in Savannah, Georgia area. He was with his wife, 2 kids, a dog and a cat, and they were packing to leave and move from Hunter Airfield to go to a new assignment in Fort Carson in Colorado. And his wife and he had decided they would travel at night when it was cool, and then they would sleep in the day, and that would be easier on the children and the pets. So it is now in the late afternoon of June 28th, 2015. And they get in the car, and in his work, he has been in the Army for more than a decade, and his job is one where they count on him to look at anything that is in the sky and tell them how big it is, how high it is, whose it is. This is what he does for a living for the United States Army. And he uses global positioning satellite information all the time. GPS to him is as common as somebody else picking up a pen and paper. He programmed his GPS in their truck to go up through Atlanta and on up to Colorado, and everything was in order, and they get in, and he and his wife had said, we should be in Atlanta, and they had an hour that would be in the early morning. And the next thing that they both remember vividly, they see a light up in the sky He's still driving. The truck is moving. And they both comment, wow, that's a bright star. Whatever that bright star was, it seemed to just literally pop right in front of this truck, causing him to move over to the shoulder and stop the truck, because what he and his wife, who are not talking with each other, they are both staring at what is now come down the road in front of them. And in his army mind, that is so used to calculating distances and sizes, he says this is at least 820 feet in diameter. It was covering the entire road and off to the sides. And he and his wife later would draw sketches, and they both saw symbols that were right along under the center of an area that the wife said she saw what she thought were round lights. And they don't really fully understand what happened, because it reaches a point where the whole thing, 820 feet, just pops out, just like it popped in. It comes to like he is numb, fuzzy-headed, starts the truck. They start driving. He's going straight on the road that they are on because he's just trying to move on the street. And in about 5 minutes, they come to a little store, and he pulls in, has gas pumps. He had looked at his watch, and he knew, as a military guy, that this thing had popped in at 1:24 a.m., and it appeared to have popped out at 1:29 a.m. He knew that it's now at least 1:35, 1:45, and he goes to open up the truck. And he said, Linda, I had to lean on the door because I started to try to move my legs. I couldn't move my legs. My entire body felt like I had turned into wet spaghetti. He said, I literally fell out of the truck, hanging on to the door, trying to make my legs move, thinking, what has happened? What is happening to us? He said, my wife was sitting in a kind of numb situation. We weren't talking to each other. And he said, I felt like I was sort of drunk and numb. We hadn't had anything to drink. And I knew that something happened with that big thing on the road, but I didn't know what. And he said, I finally could start to feel in my legs. And I started to walk. And Linda, I was stumbling. Somebody watching me would have thought I was drunk. And I get to the glass door in this gas station little store, and I get in there, and I got some water, and I got some stuff for the kids and for my wife and me and the cat and the dog. And I looked at the receipt, and the receipt said Wadley, Georgia. Wadley, Georgia. That's 90 degrees off of the route from where we were in Savannah going up to Atlanta. How could we be in Wadley, Georgia? And he gets back to the truck, and he explains to his wife, I don't know what is happening. And they go down the road a little bit more, trying to see if there is an interstate, and he realizes we're in rural Georgia. This has nothing to do with any freeway, highway. How did we get off? He does a U-turn. He finally gets back on the interstate, and by sunup, they get to a motel that is outside of Atlanta, Georgia, which is where they wanted to go. He said they're exhausted. The kids immediately go to sleep. The cat and dog goes to sleep. His wife goes to sleep. And he knew that when he got into bed, that there was something, he was troubled. He thinks fitful dreams. The very next conscious moment, he said, imagine you've gone to bed and you know that you have been on a pillow. When you open up your eyelids, my right arm was against the door jamb of the bathroom in the motel. My left arm is holding the receipt an 8.5 by 11 receipt that we got. In this hand, I have a ballpoint pen. In this hand, the receipt has, completely covering most of it, zeros and ones. And I'm looking at my own handwriting, and the zeros and ones trail off to WTF. What the? And he said, I can't move. I do not know what is happening. Well, by the time that he and I got to talk, he was willing to send me not only those zeros and ones, but other zeros and ones that he had gotten for a period of time after this strange event. And I began to see that what we had here might be like Jim Peniston at our Bentwaters when he was in Rendlesham Forest. If this is now another military person getting a binary code download, then I've got to try to translate it. And when I went to a retired Navy captain and to a geneticist scientist in Australia who is really good with binary code, they both did binary code translations. And here is what came into this Army sergeant's mind from whatever occurred between the 820-foot diameter disc that stopped them in that road, and they find her in Wadley, Georgia. Remember I said that Jim Peniston had a theme that humanity had to advance and that there was some kind of need to have people have a broader consciousness in order to survive. Here is what I call Sergeant CJ. Here is the translation from his experiences getting binary coded in his mind from June 30th until January of 2016. For a period of time, he was waking up many different nights, writing down zeros and ones in a notebook that he kept by his bed. And this is how they translated. Continuous protection of humanity, 49.27 north, 11.5 east. Expose hidden knowledge to all citizens. Advancement imperative for planetary survival. Beware of Orion 1350.3 and Zeta Reticuli 39.170. Avoid signal messages sent. What we found is that avoid signal messages appeared to be you're sending out radio signals and it's going to possibly put you in danger. You should not be sending out messages into the cosmos from Earth. Beware of Orion 1350. Turns out that is exactly the number of light years that would be equivalent from here to Orion, and Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2 is 39.7 light years. So this is a message in binary that actually has the light year distances of Orion and Zeta Reticuli embedded in the binary. And then when you get to that first line about continuous protection of humanity, 49.27 north and 11.5 east, when you look up that latitude longitude, it is Nuremberg, Germany. And I remember seeing that for the very first time. Nuremberg, Germany, continuous protection of humanity. I think World War II and the horror of World War II and how the International Court was held in Nuremberg. But if you go back to the 1500s, it is also Nuremberg that is famous for a woodcut that was done of a variety of UFOs in various shapes fighting each other, where it shows that some UFOs are crashing, and it's a famous woodcut. What is the link between timelines on Earth, timelines of something that may be coming from other dimensions and possibly from inside this universe, could communicate to us latitudes, longitudes, and information that seems to tie together like a weaving past history events, present events, and implying that there is danger in a future if humans do not advance more quickly. When we go to the rest of the binary translation from Sergeant C.J., imminent threat soon upon Earth leaders and civilizations. Expose and expand hidden knowledge to all citizens. Employ safe and controlled joint study to all minds. Progression imperative for combined survival. The idea here is that if we don't get the truth out and share it to the whole human family, we end up being threatened by something because we will be left in ignorance. It's essentially what Jim Penniston received in Rendlesham in 1980. And then it goes on into a very interesting paragraph that says, Royal Emerther. Emerther has been a name assigned to a very specific type of tall gray humanoid over the decades, very mysterious. Royal Emerther warning, expose foreign technology to all, evolutionary advancement needed to prevent takeover. Takeover by what? This leads to a very interesting issue that comes up now with all of the military people who have been exposed to UFOs and ETs in their work, or to people like Sergeant CJ and Jim Penniston, a staff sergeant in 1980 in RAF Bentwaters Rendlesham Forest. And that appears to be a theme that also has come up in remote viewers who have worked for the Defense Intelligence Agency and the Central Intelligence Agency. That the universe is teeming with life. It is way past time for humanity on this planet to be told the truth. And that in all of this life that fills this universe, there are allies and there are enemies. And that we humans on this planet would not have survived if we did not have allies who wanted us to survive, have protected us from those who might want to see us gone from Earth. And that is a theme that I have encountered now in my professional career over and over since 1979, trying to get to the bottom of the truth about animal mutilations, human abductions, government cover-up, policies of denial, and why we, as a 7.2 billion population on Earth of Homo sapiens sapien, right now we've got all kinds of programs that are going to be taking